record on this computer. Cool, recording. So Masterclass today is about storytelling and developing your story. So if you've already done some of the modules in the business ideas toolkit, there's a little bit of repeat in this, and also if you've read the book, there's a little bit of repeat in this as well, but we'll go back through it. And it's about playing with your work that you've done so far. So this is where it sort of all comes together, but it's still a play space. So at the end of maybe half an hour, if we have a go at this, what you should have is just a series of ideas that are coming to you that then you can keep playing with for various reasons. So the first place to start when you're thinking about your story is, this is going to be no surprise, it's going to be your why. So the whole way through the program, we've been keep referring back to knowing your why and the reason you want to do something. And the reason why we keep on repeating that is because that's the core of any foundational story. And it's the bit that will get you the connection with the person or the organization that will get you what you want. So we keep coming back to the why. So that's kind of like the first foundation that we'll explore, but we're going to do it in two different contexts. So we can park that for now, but I wanted to kind of flag that we will be exploring that a little bit more later. The first thing we're going to think about is the why, but in the context of why you want the story. So there's two different things. If you put you in a page, so kind of scribble you there in the middle, there's two different whys. There's a why do you want the story? So what do you want it to do for you? What do I need my story to do for me? And then there's the other side, which is what do I want it to say about me? So it's two different things. So why do I want a story is one question. And then my why as me as a person is a completely different thing that we'll explore in terms of content. And it's important to separate the two because they work in very different ways. And unless you're really clear on what you want in your story to be doing for you, it's not irrelevant what your story will be, but it definitely will put it in a different direction. So I'll give you an example. The whole CV thing, the reason why we don't do CV at the beginning, the reason why this whole experience is not about CV, which is usually what outplacement is all about. You can't tell a story about yourself unless you know why. You can't develop a CV or a portfolio or a website or anything like that unless you know what am I doing, who am I hoping to attract, what do I want it to do for me. So that's the first part to start in. So it might be that you don't know the answers to that right now, but create it as step one. What do I want my story to do for me? It might be that at this point in time, you need your story just to be actually helping you get through the day. So in the book, I talk about having a line to take, a LTT. So a line to take is what a press office, if any of you have been in
my story.
It's what a press office would develop as a repetitive, consistent message if you're continually asked something. Your line to take is your thing that helps you just manage the situation. So somebody will say, oh, I've heard you lost your job, how you doing? Instead of having to think of the answer every single time, you've already kind of thought of a notion of how you're going to answer that. So you say, yeah, I'm good, searching for opportunities, but all good. How are you? You don't have to use energy on thinking, well, how am I today? How is this? It's just a line. The reason why that's useful is because that question can drain people. Some people you'll want to just be quite authentic and natural, and obviously that's your friends, family, whoever you choose, you might just want to tell them. Other people, it's just a repetitive conversational thing that happens to you when you lose your job. You need to reserve energy on it. So that's your line to take. How do you answer that question? And then some people will say, well, that sounds really clinical. Well, it might do, but trust me, it helps reserve your energy. So choose what you want to do. None of this is for you to take as tools to help you get through the moment you're in. So the line to take is the first sort of element of the storytelling piece. And it's a really simple thing that tells you, right, this is how I'm going to talk about where I'm at right now. So that's the first bit. What do you want it to do for you? You want it to just help you get through the day and make you feel okay, instead of sending you off in triggers and all sorts of things as you kind of get bogged down in those conversations. The next layer is when you start thinking about, okay, I would like a job or I'd like to start a business, then your story becomes more part of the solution and it grows. But you still have to be really clear on, what do I want it to be doing? Do I want it to be telling the world, actually, I'm just open to opportunity, I'm putting it out there, I'm exploring new jobs in this field. Come and talk to me if you've got anything. Do you want it to be working for you in a way of like, right, I'm going to start a new business. I need you to help me to get new customers or to grow awareness that I'm doing something new. So it's setting an objective of what you want the story to be. If you're back in the workplace or you've got a job, the story might be in terms of how you're just positioning yourself. And I work with quite a lot of people who never think this at all. They will, and they think that it clashes with being authentic. Authentic doesn't mean you turn up and you just blur everything out and you be yourself, and it's kind of like that weird sort of reality show thing, like, well, I'm just saying what I think, I'm an authentic person. No, that's not what that is about. It's about really understanding and an awareness of what you're doing and what you want out of your actions. There's two different things. So being authentic, great, but you can be authentic and actually you can achieve your goals with it. Very thin lines there, but it's knowing your story and what you're wanting from it. So when we stop, I'll keep going through the masterclass, and when we stop, feel free to ask if that kind of resonates or you need more information. I'm going to run through the whole sort of steps of the story, and then at the end of the steps, then we can open up and kind of go where you've got more questions. So that's the first part. What's your story doing for you? Second part, excuse me, just need some water. Second part is then flipping over to the other side of that page and saying, right, what do I want it to say about me? And again, being authentic is not sharing everything. It's being very intentional about what you're sharing and meaning it. You don't have to share every single thing about you. Telling your story is, what are the parts that I really want to talk about that help me achieve my goal? So I see a lot of people who, and I think Amanda and Elaine mentioned it as well, when you're developing your CV, you kind of splurt everything about you all over the page. So it's like, this is everything I've done. And if you think about that from a very pure tactical point of view, the recruiter at the other end is then having to search through themselves and work it all out. Like, does this make sense to what I'm looking for? And that's where there's a disconnect. So the more that you can position yourself into a space that you want to be in and make it easy for that customer or that recruiter or whoever it is you're targeting to match it, the more likely you'll achieve that objective. So when you're starting a business, the reason why people talk a lot about developing that customer avatar or that clientele in your head is because you can then create content and you can tell your story that's very close to where they think they need to get something from you. So it all keeps coming back to purpose. What am I trying to do from this? So what do I need my story to do? What do I need my story to say? 2 steps. The next layer is all around the whole storytelling. So storytelling kind of works in all different ways, and it sometimes is a little bit overplayed. So people talk about storytelling in organizations, and it definitely has a place. It doesn't always have a place. Storytelling is when you can put yourself, you very cleverly put yourself in the position of the audience, whether it's a customer or whether it's a a team or whoever it is, you put yourself in the position of the audience, and then you take your journey, a very personal journey, and you take them on it. But the whole time they can resonate with the points you're making. That's what a great storyteller does. That's when you watch people on stage who can tell a story about themselves, but you still feel like you're connecting with them and you still want more from them. There's a difference between someone who just tells a story about themselves. I think we could all probably think of examples where we've been at events or we've been watching people telling a story and we think, where is this going? Why am I listening to this? They haven't connected that objective of, no, I'm here to connect with the audience. I'm not just here to tell a story. That's just throwing things in the air and, you know, hoping that someone's going to unravel it. You have to be very intentional with what your purpose is on stage or your writing or whatever however form you're creating your story. The storytelling is about that. It's about connecting. Where is the audience right now? What do they want from this story? So how do you start creating that? Well, there's all sorts of stuff. And when you get into formats and different ways that you can tell your story, then there's obviously different formulas. And if I'm going to be honest with you, I don't honestly believe there's one way of telling a great story. You have to find your way that you're comfortable with, and the rest will flow. So all people who sort of market, you know, how to tell a story, it's great. And it probably gives you little insights into it, but it still has to be yours. Some people can do great personal storytelling and still, you know, you still want to buy from them. Some people can sell stuff. They can do great sales pitches, and it comes very naturally. Others can't. So you've got to find your way. Writing is also storytelling. And you've got to find out. Some people are amazing writers and some people are definitely not. So you've got to find your format, and that's a different part of the whole equation of storytelling. The channels and distribution are completely, put that to one side, because you have to explore that after you've really thought about, why am I telling my story? Okay, so we've got the 2 steps. Why do I need a story? What do I want to say in my story? Have a now think about that why question. So if you've been going through the program or if you've been exploring it, the why is all around, why am I doing this? What am I hoping to achieve from it? What's my driver? Who am I guess is the other way as well, to go deeper into that and think about the values masterclass that Kate ran. That starts to begin to shape almost like the first chapter of your story, which is probably not a chapter at all. It's a couple of words, a couple of sentences that you can bring together. Who am I and why am I doing what I'm doing? So have a play with that now, in terms of, if you're not in a space that you're very clear exactly what the intention is and where you want to go, just make one up, because these tools you can keep working on. So say if you go, well, okay, I want to be a gardener. Just think of it in that way. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Well, I'm passionate about gardening. I'm driven by the success of an amazing flower bed. My values are outdoors and growth, blah, blah, blah. So you can see that your why can start telling you and giving you words that you feel really comfortable with using. So that is almost a mind map in itself, when you put your why in the middle of a page and you start mind mapping words. Then you just choose a couple of things that you would feel really comfortable consistently talking about. So if you think about people that you think you know who they are, the chances are that you would describe them in a way that they have kind of set, or it would be very close to that. So start playing with some sort of sentences and words that you think, yes, I can associate with that. You don't have to feel completely comfortable at this stage with it, but kind of think, yeah, that's kind of my why. I'm comfortable with playing in that space. Why do I want to do something? Sometimes people get a bit stuck here and they go, it's just money. I just want to earn money. But think harder about, well, why? What's getting you up in the morning?
Do you want us to share this now, Eleanor, or is it to kind of keep to ourselves?
Keep scribbling down. I'll keep going through all the steps.
Okay.
And then at the end, because depending on where you're at, the story, the parts of the story might be different. So at the end, I'll only do this for half an hour of this, go through the steps. And then at the end of the half an hour, we'll open it up. And then where you think, right, I've been in this space, this is what's come up for me, we'll go round. Because different things people will want to focus on different things and different stages depending on where they're at. So that's why I've kind of run it in that way. That makes sense. So yeah, capture bits that you want to go through at the end of the half an hour. So the why piece, and Catherine, that's a good flag. So why, sometimes you might get stuck in that space and think, oh, I don't really know. That's cool, but acknowledge, okay, that's a gap, because you do need that. The why is the bit that will help you get over the line to get an interview. That's the difference. The why is the bit that will give you confidence that when you're in an interview and they start talking about the job and you need to talk about it, it's the difference between you sitting up going, this is me, this is what I do, because your why is giving you all of that energy and you can kind of just be in flow. So it's an important bit, but it doesn't necessarily mean you got all the answers at this point. So if it kind of feels a bit weird to play in that space, that's fine. But remember that that's an important part of storytelling. So you've got your why. Oh, sorry, I keep on coughing today. Hang on. Oh my goodness. Right. I'm doing too much talking all week. That's my problem. Now we're going to explore what. So this is where a lot of people get stuck because they've gone straight into what. But if I take it down to the tactical tool of a CV, what have you done? That's where we just go, right, all these jobs. I've been at this, I've been at that, I've been at that. And you just list them all. That's your what. For what to really work hard for you, whether you're wanting new business or you're wanting a job, you've got to kind of bring that alive more. So say been a head of internal comms for all of these businesses. Great, well done. And that gets you only so far. The next part of what is really, well, what did you achieve in those roles? What have you achieved in your past that from a business story point of view starts to make you unique or interesting and stand out? So list all your what's. What have you done? What's your experience? What's your strengths? But then bring it alive. And this, again, you have to play with all of this stuff because it's got to be your language. On a CV, it would be all around, I've been head of internal comms. What did I achieve? I recruited a whole new team. I brought in a new strategy that meant that engagement in the business went from 55 to 95. I ran a huge event with Richard Branson and it engaged 5,000 employees behind a new branding of an app. It's bringing it alive for somebody. And that's where storytelling starts to come in. Because what you can see in a pure job scenario is somebody can then start looking, and that's their talkability. They can start saying, oh, someone's bringing me water. Thank you. Thank you. Someone can start saying, this is really interesting. So you've already ran a program about XYZ. Tell me more about that. And that's the hook. If it's a business or a freelance or a project point of view, they can associate, they can connect with that and say, right, you've run a huge program here. We'd like you to do some work on that. Tell me what you did in this scenario, or tell me how you would go about doing it for us. And you can use that story to then tell that story for what they're asking you. So you can see how it's more like a storytelling than a list of stuff. You're bringing it alive for somebody. So why, what, and then we're obviously going to go into how. And it's in that order. How is always the last thing, because when you're selling yourself or you're selling a business, people need connection. They need the human connection. They need the kind of what's in terms of, well, how, what is it on offer? And then the how is, how does it get delivered? It's the final piece of the equation. And that's almost the last thing that you would think about in the storytelling, because you need to win people over in this couple of spaces beforehand. They're not going to be interested in, so I'll take the pure example of the comms job. I'm not going to be interested in me writing a comms plan. How do you do that? Oh, I write a comms plan. It's not going to get me over the line. It's not going to make me stand out. It's what have I achieved with that stuff and how I've done it in the past. And what do I think about it in the future? So these are the spaces that I would say is play with. And then you can start getting more into the detail of the storytelling and, okay, what is it? Again, go back to the very first objective. What is it doing for me? Keep coming back to that question. So if it's a business that you're trying to set up, what am I really needing this to do? I'm trying to grow clientele. Okay, what do they want right now? How can I use my story to connect to that? So that's when you start getting content that, again, if you've done this exercise, you'll have all this mapped out. So you can then start drawing from your story to create a content plan. Again, it's two different things. Your content plan is very different to your story. Your story is like a book of you that you can draw on at any point in time. Your content is, right, I'm being very intentional now with what I'm going to do with that story. So it's mapping out and saying, right, I'm trying to attract 3 customers in this space, and this is the problem I'm solving for them. How does my story help that? Well, I'm going to tell a bit about me. And it's going to kind of resonate with them. Then I'm going to go into perhaps why now. So actually talk about their situation. Again, you can draw that from your story. And then maybe it could be something about, you know, why your business or your offering is the best thing at this moment in time. So you can kind of start thinking about it from their point of view, but because you've done all the work about your story, you're converting it. So this is very purely about your story, by the way. This is not marketing, because that's a whole new level. And simple marketing plan is on the toolkit, which obviously then goes a bit more down into how you pure market. But this is about you telling your story and then how you use it in different ways. So the final bit I would say about your story, and I keep on reminding you, this is a space of playing with all of the stuff that you've gone through on the program about your why, your what, who you are, your values, and bringing it alive and thinking of those moments. If you did the journey piece, the milestone journey career piece that we recommend in Stuck Chapter, you might have moments that you remember that think, that was when I was absolutely flying in that space and I achieved X. You can bring that part of it into your story and dial it up, get something you want. So say if it is a project manager role that you're wanting, and you remember that moment in time when you had a huge project on your that you were doing for a business, you could dial that up. You could start telling that story of when you ran a huge project. I would say that the majority of people aren't too fussed about timelines and scales. This is about storytelling. So I haven't worked for Virgin for 7 years, but I still use it in my storytelling. So it's bringing all of that into your consistent messaging, which starts to build up a picture for that person that you're trying to attract or the objective you're trying to achieve that's repetitive. So that's where we're trying to get to. And then the final foundation that I would put, so once you've done what do I want the story to do? What do I want it to say? What's the why, the what, and the how? The final piece that then you can reflect back on is, what do I want to say about myself? I kind of sometimes use the word famous for. What do you want to be famous for? What do you want to be the go-to person for? Sometimes that feels a bit odd if you're trying to apply for jobs, but it still can work. It feels a lot more comfortable if you're trying to freelance or contract or consult and start a business. But keep playing in that space because it does help you. So for an example, if you say, what do I want to be famous for? And again, I'll use my background. So I'm head of comms. I would be famous for doing huge, big transformation programs in big brands, big well-known brands, and doing them really well. I come in and I work with brands who've got huge personalities and big brand values, and I bring it all alive and engage employees behind it. That could be what you're famous for within your remit. The other part of that, the next step, is the future. What could you be famous for? So a lot of comms people at the moment are out of work. They're looking for new business, and I've been working with a few people in that space. So how can they start differentiating through their story? One of the ways to do it is start niching. So you're a comms person, you've got this experience, you've told that little story about transformation or about what you've been doing. Start niching and start saying, my passion is really, how do employees connect to brand values? And you write a blog about it. And then you ask a question about it. And then you ask other people to comment on it. So you've now told a story about what you are passionate about in amongst your expertise, and you're starting to bring people into your story. And that's how you start building up expertise. It's not just about telling everybody how wonderful you are. That's the opposite. Because for a start, people will start saying, well, how are you the expert? So you've got to almost bring people into your story at that point. This is why this is a state of play. There's not one formula that you can just follow and it's all beautiful. You've got to play, and you've got to keep coming back to what am I trying to do with my story today? What's going to really help me? What is the stuff I need to just drop? And actually, I don't need to talk about that at the moment. What stuff I need to dial up? And then that bit I've just mentioned, what I might need to invent something to get me somewhere. So the part on the niching part, I've seen a lot of comms people doing really well and getting jobs through niching and talking about, say, sustainability has been quite a big agenda item for corporate communications. And they've suddenly started talking a lot about it, about how they've seen amazing best practice of employee engagement practices in the sustainability space. And they've talked about it, and they've run a panel about it, and they've done a workshop about it. And they've done all this stuff, and then they've got themselves a head of internal communications job, not because somebody has gone, oh, that's the direct link. It's just that they've raised their awareness, they've raised their brand as a personal brand, as an internal comms person, through a passion. So it's not that the niche is going to be necessarily what you're going to be doing, it's that it's helping you to get a space. So there's a lady a couple of months ago who was, I don't know if passion's the right word, but absolutely loved Workspace, the Facebook, employee Facebook system. She just thought it was going to be a really strong answer to a lot of employee engagement issues, and she became known for it. So she would run workshops for other comms people about it. She would write about it. She'd get Facebook, interview Facebook. She'd get really passionate about it, but she didn't become a workspace lead or workspace expert. She got a head of internal comms job at a big brand because she got herself back in that space talking about something that was part of that role. So I hope that makes sense. I'm doing this really quickly because you're all at different times and places and objectives. So this is really like a high level play space to understand that your story can be many different things. It should look like a bit of a mind map of all different things that you've picked up over the program. And then it's the case of, right, what do I want it to do for me? And that's the moment it becomes really works hard, when you're very intentional about, right, what's my story right now? How am I talking about me? How am I putting out there what I want to achieve? When I'm right about something, how is my story becoming part of that, that someone is connecting me with it? So I'm talking in LinkedIn and saying, okay, I've been a comms person for the last 23 years. And in all my time, I haven't seen a great campaign about sustainable issues that everyone's got behind. Anyone else have any opinions about this? Your objective there is to get people talking about it, and then they'll attach you to, oh, you're a comms person. You've subtly put in that you're a comms person. You're still looking for that job, but you're subtly opening up a conversation. So it's keeping on using that kind of thing, that you're reminding people, this is who I am. But I obviously want to engage with people on this topic. I want you to keep thinking about me when you think about this particular subject. So that is 30-minute. I think I usually spend a lot more time with people talking about story, but at this stage in the program, another door is about provoking thought. It's not about it's not about these huge programs. You can do a 5-week program with somebody who solely works on developing your story, but to get anything out of those sort of things, you've got to understand your why. Otherwise, you'll spend the 5 weeks, just exploring. So my advice is play with it, but be really conscious that your story can work a lot harder for you than what it is right now. Because I see so many people who just don't use it. They don't understand that. They just kind of putting stuff out there and hoping that someone else will understand it, read it, do something with it, approach them. And it doesn't, sometimes it works like that if you get lucky, but it doesn't work more than often.
Eleanor?
Yeah?
This is Catherine. Can I possibly plan to have a one-on-one session with you very soon?
Yeah,
please?
Absolutely, yeah.
Because I'm at a point where I feel like I'm on the cusp of great things happening, but I'm also feeling very overwhelmed and scared.
Yeah. I get that.
And it's a good scared. It's good, but I've got a husband who doesn't want to see me in hospital again.
Yeah, get some time in. I'll let me just make a little note on a post.
Could you call me on my cell phone?
Yeah.
I'll drop the message into a chat. Sorry, people, just need to step away a bit for today.
That's completely cool. Thanks, Catherine. Let's catch up.
Thank you. Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Take care. Right, I don't want me on the thing. Let me get rid of me. There we go. Let me get everybody else up. There we go. Right, here we go. Right, so that was a huge big whiz through storytelling, the purpose it'll play in your next step. But what I'm interested in doing for the last couple of minutes, we've probably just got about 5-10 minutes each if you need it, is to go through what was the parts of that whole story where you were like, right, I need to focus in on that point, because there'll be different parts depending on where you're at. That's probably the useful bit that we can do in this masterclass. And then what I'd suggest is taking that thinking into job search clinic or business clinic, and that's what you can really work on a bit more in a bit more detail. Or obviously there's one-to-one if you need real detail on bringing that alive. So anyone want to go first? Let me stop recording. That's probably